Can an undemocratic monarchy really exist going forward? Go forward 10, 20, 30 years. We've seen the rapid removal of most monarchies in Europe in the last 50 years or so. I mean, do you think that a monarchy, the idea, the concept, has any real future?
Well, that's a matter for the United Kingdom. I myself am a Democrat and believe in democratic institutions, and that is how we should be governed, and that is how we should determine.
So you don't believe in the idea of a monarchy?
State. No, I'm a Republican.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I don't respect the institution which is there, which plays a role in our system of government. I have to meet with the Governor-General regularly. The Governor-General has to sign off on our pieces of legislation, and I respect that. And I think that it's important that institutions which are there that have been determined be given that respect, and I see my role as the Australian Prime Minister in doing that.
When you see the King later, how are you going to explain that you've decided to remove his image or not have his image on your $5 banknotes, given it's always traditionally been whoever the monarch is? You've decided as a government you're not going to do this. Are you going to cough up to this when you see King Charles?
I'm sure that it won't be raised. The King's portrait, the official one, will be on the back of every coin. And of course, our dollar notes, the truth is that they've all changed at various times as well, including the $5 note. So this was, I think, much ado about nothing, frankly.
Well, except you've always had the Queen's.
No, it hasn't always been on the $5 note.
Really?
That's actually not true. And indeed, we haven't even had. We've had different currencies, of course. We went decimal in 1966. So there's a whole history of change.
So nothing personal then?
Not at all. Not at all. The decision was made actually by the Reserve Bank. It wasn't even made by the government, an independent body. They consulted the government, and we were comfortable with the decision that was made to have an Indigenous representation artwork on the $5 note, which of course with the $1 note that was abolished, that used to have, so the lowest denomination of note of currency used to have the Indigenous artwork on it.
Meghan and Harry have dominated headlines for 3 years. Do you have a view about them? Do you think they should be able to keep their royal titles?
I have, of all the things that come across my desk that I'm concerned about, global inflation, the increasingly insecure world, the war in Ukraine, dealing with the challenge of climate change, I've got to say, Harry and Meghan have not been front and centre of my thoughts.
Will you be seeking Harry out in the Abbey for a little chat?
I spoke to Harry very briefly at his mother's funeral.
His grandmother.
His grandmother, sorry, and passed on my respects. And I don't know whether I'll see him or not, but if I did, I'd say hello.
Australia's other Queen, Dame Edna Everage, very sadly died. Barry Humphries, who created that amazing comic character. What were your thoughts about Barry Humphries? Just
that Barry Humphries was the quintessential Australian character. Barry Humphries brought Australian larrikinism really to life. And in the characters, including, of course, most famously Dame Edna, but Sandy Stone and of course, who can forget that great Australian politician, Les Patterson. Australians have a particular sense of humour. I think British humour is different from American humour. I'm a fan of Monty Python going back, and Blackadder and shows like that could only have come from the UK. Barry Humphries could only have come from Australia. What Barry Humphries would say is taking the piss out of ourselves. and he did it so well and for such a long period of time. So it was a big loss for the Australian arts community, and of course he was equally as big here in the United Kingdom. And it says something about our common history that we share, and that engagement and interaction. I don't know that Barry Humphries was very big in the United States or in Asia or in continental Europe, but in the United Kingdom he was big, and in Australia he was, of course, larger than life, and there was a great deal of mourning of him.